Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be learning a little bit about the order of operations, and we're going to be learning how to do calculations in the correct order. Now, maths itself is very much a language. We maybe don't often think of it as a language, but it absolutely is. And as such, it has a grammar to it, an order that things have to be written in order for them to make sense. So if I show you this sentence here, man the bites dog the, we can acknowledge it doesn't make sense. The words all make sense on their own, but when they're put together, the grammar is incorrect for this one. Whereas, if we look at this sentence here, this does make sense. The dog bites the man. All the same words, however, the order of the words matter, and the order that we read those words in matters. And so it is with maths as well. In maths, we have a certain order that things need to be done in. So let's take this here, and if we think of this as almost being like a sentence in maths, like the sentences we just looked at there. The temptation is for us to read this left to right, like we do any normal written sentence. And if we do that, we would do 3 plus 4, which is 7. 3 plus 4 is 7, times 5. Well, 7 times 5 is 35. However, if you were to do that, you would be completely wrong. That is not the way that you answer this question. The correct way to do it is using something called BODMAS. And that is what we're going to be looking at in this lesson. So BODMAS tells us the order that we need to do things in mathematically. So it starts off with brackets. Anything that we see that are in brackets, we have to do them first. Even if they're at the end of a mathematical sentence, even if they seem to be at the end of the calculation, if you see a set of brackets, you do that stuff first. The next thing is orders. Those are square numbers, square roots, all that sort of stuff. We then have division and multiplication. Those happen together in whatever order you find them in. So dividing and multiplying, they're a package deal if you like. And then we have, lastly, addition and subtraction. And again, you do them in the order that you find them in. They are another package deal. So that means that division and multiplication, you can swap the order of that and it doesn't make any difference. So BODMAS could be BOMDAS, with the multiplication and division swapped. It could be BODMSA, or it could be BOMDSA. Basically, you can swap around the M and the D and the S and the A any way that you want. However, everything needs to follow this particular order. So brackets first, then orders, then division and multiplication, then addition and subtraction. So going back to our little problem here, if we think about applying BODMAS to this, well, I know now that we need to do multiplication before we do adding. So if I was to do this again here, I would do the 4 times 5 first, which is 20. So the sum is really 3 plus 20, the answer to which is 23. And that would be the correct mathematical solution to this problem here. So let's look at a couple of similar examples. We can see here, this problem, 4 times 5 minus 2, we can see a set of brackets in that. Now if we look over to the side of our screen here, we can see brackets are the first thing that we do. So I'm going to start by writing out the full equation. 4 times 5 minus 2, and the 5 minus 2 is in brackets. And that equals, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simplify it. 5 minus 2. What is 5 minus 2? Because that's in the brackets. Well, 5 minus 2 I know is 3. So really what I'm being asked is 4 times 3. And that is a very simple calculation. 4 times 3, 12. So there we go. By doing the brackets first, we're then able to simplify it and work out the actual answer. Similar problem then. we see here that we have 20 plus 4 in brackets, and we're then dividing that by 4. Well, we know already the first thing we do is anything in brackets. So 20 plus 4 is really 24, and I'm dividing that by 4. What you'll notice I'm doing is I'm basically writing it out again and again with one thing solved at a time. In this case, I solve the brackets, I write out the whole thing again, but with the brackets part solved. Now I write it out again with the division part solved. 24 divided by 4, well, that's 6. And we have our answer. Okay, now we see a couple of things. We see a square number and we see something in brackets. Now, just in case you've not covered it, square numbers are any number times itself. So, in other words, 2 squared is really 2 times 2, which is 4. 3 squared is really 3 times 3, which is 9. 4 squared would be 4 times 4, which is 16. These are all square numbers. In this case, we've got 6 squared, which is going to be 6 times 6. But we know from looking at BODMAS, we do that second. The first thing we do is our brackets. So let's work through this step by step. We'll start by writing out the equation. 6 squared divided by brackets 7 minus 3 equals. Okay, let's write out again, but solving one thing. The brackets in this case. So I'm going to keep 6 squared the same, and I'm dividing it by, well, I solve 7 minus 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solve the next part. I'm now going to write it out again, but solving what 6 squared is. So basically just do the next piece of the puzzle. So that is really 36 divided by 4. What is 36 divided by 4? Well, that's 9, and we finally got our answer. In this case, it took us 3 steps, because we had to solve the brackets first, then we had to solve the square number. But we eventually get to the final answer. Same method here, a little bit longer. Let's have a wee look at it. So, as always, start by writing out the whole problem. Well, let's solve the first part. The first part that we're going to solve is going to be the brackets, because that's what we need to solve first. So we'll write it out again, everything exactly the same, apart from the bit that we're solving. In fact, I'll even change the colour of the bit that we're solving. So 5 plus, that stays the same. 3 plus 4 is in brackets, so we need to solve that. So we've got 5 plus, and then 3 plus 4, which is 7. Then everything else stays the same, times 3 squared. Okay, we've solved that first part. Next, we're going to solve this part here, the 3 squared. So let's write it all out again. 5 plus 7 times, and 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which is 9. And we're getting very close now, but we know that we don't get to do our adding yet. That's not the place to go. We need to do our multiplying. 7 times 9 is the next thing we're going to do. So we've ticked off our brackets, we've ticked off our orders of magnitude. Next, we're doing the multiplication. So we write it out again. 5 plus 7 times 9 is 63. And at long last, we get to do our addition now. We are finally on to the addition. 5 plus 63 is 68. So there we have it. Working through it sequentially, we've got our brackets, we've got our orders of magnitude, we do multiplication, then we do addition. Okay, so a long one to finish off here, but as long as we just stick to the formula of using BODMAS, we'll be absolutely fine. As before, to start off with, we're just going to write out the entirety of the equation. Now then, we have the equation written out. Now then, what we want to do first of all is solve these brackets. So we're going to write everything out again, as before, but with the brackets solved. So 9 minus 1, that's 8. Everything else stays the same, so there is a times sign here, so I do a times now. And the next thing is 3 plus 2, which is 5, plus, and it's 5 squared, I missed off the squared there, 5 squared. Okay, so we've solved the first part, we've solved the brackets. Next, we need to do our orders. Any orders here? Well, yes, there's a 5 squared, so we're going to have to write everything out again, but with the 5 squared sorted. So we have 6 plus 8 times 5 plus 25. And that's us solved the next bit. What do we do next? Well, we worked on our list, we've done our brackets, we've done our orders. There's no division in this case. We've got some multiplication. There we go, multiplication. That's the next part we're going to solve. Write it out again. 6 plus 8 times 5 is 40 plus 25. And we are very close to being done. The only thing left to do in this case is addition. There is no subtraction. So 6 plus 40, 46, plus 25 is 71. And there we have it, guys. So I'm showing it in a way where we write out with one thing solved at a time, and that is by far the best way to actually develop your thinking on this. But all you need to do is basically faithfully follow the system. Just go through step by step, like we saw on this first slide here. We start off, just solve the brackets. Next, look for any orders, square numbers and square roots. Then do your division and multiplication in whatever order you find it. Then do your adding and subtracting in whatever order you find it. Cheers, guys!